Hi guys, if you're here, just let me know. Thumbs up or some love. Hi Tashani, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with the camera because it's a bit dark on my side. Okay. Hello guys. I hope you all had a great day, contrary to popular belief. Monday is one of the best days of the week because it gives you the idea of a fresh start. So I hope you weren't too burdened and you in fact had a great day. It's good to see you, Marlando. So today I will be discussing the notion of fear, something that we contend with on a daily basis, and some of us find it difficult to work through our fears to pursue our dreams. I believe I will be discussing fear over the next week to 2 weeks because I believe it is a very comprehensive element that warrants much discussion. My friend Renee has asked me to speak about fear from the perspective of it being the enemy within, and how do you work through that fear to overcome it and then pursue your dreams. And of course, we know it is easier said than done, that you can just work through your fears to realize your potential. You can say it. There's one thing to say it, but another thing to actually accomplish what you're working toward when you're so debilitated or inhibited by fear. So that is what I want to talk to you about this evening. I'm just going to wait for a few more persons to join us, and then I'll get started. Thank you, Tashani. I hope you had a good day at school today. It's good to see you. I just got back from work, but I have to remain committed and share the insights that I have garnered for myself with you guys. So I am very happy to do that. Hi, Kasim. Good night. Okay, so I'm going to get started. And I think the best place to start is with a very old African proverb that is something that is being used by many persons who speak about fear today. And it goes like this. It says that if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. Now, on the face of it, what the proverb is saying is that we basically have the power to decide whether or not we're going to allow external forces of fear to debilitate us. And one writer has explained the proverb to mean that we give others the power over us, and we decide whether or not we're going to allow others to harm us. Hi, Misha. Nice to see you. Hi, sis. Thanks for joining. So basically, what I understand from that proverb is that if there is no element of fear, no crippling element of fear inside of you, then any external variables that might affect you in your pursuits are not going to basically operate to debilitate you. That's what the proverb is saying. However, I have a slightly different perspective. I believe that fear is not necessarily 100% bad. I believe fear is something that we can actually use to our advantage, but it has to be controlled. My reason for saying this is fear is something that if you don't have it, you're not really going to push to your maximum potential. And sometimes because of the element of fear, you're able to push yourself beyond limits that you didn't even know. You're able to push yourself to such a limit that you didn't even know you had the potential to go that far. So I believe some amount of fear is important because it helps you, it propels you in the right direction. However, if the fear is so concentrated that hi Sandy, thank you, good night. If the fear is so intense that it is going to cripple you, then you're not going to be able to achieve the things that you are working so hard to achieve. And that is why we want to find a way to work through that fear to our advantage. So I am going to basically make some reference to my notes as I discuss this. Tonight I want to speak about the psychology of fear. And you know, sometimes you plan to talk about something and then one of your devoted viewers has a different suggestion, and of course I have to oblige. So Kasim, you're asking about the fear of failing, and I'm just going to digress to answer that for you, because that is something that many of us contend with. Hi, Miss Powell, good to see you. That is something that many of us basically are faced with as a challenge on a daily basis. A lot of us are afraid to fail, and because of that fear, sometimes we do not try. We do not attempt to do things that we know within ourselves that we have the potential or the ability to do, but because we are afraid of failing, we do not do it. Now, what I would say to that, Kasim, is that if you don't do it, then you will never know whether or not you would have succeeded. And nothing is wrong with failing. I do believe that failure is necessary, because when you fail a couple of times, when you actually win, the victory is even sweeter. So you should not allow the fear of failure to prevent you from working on something that that your heart is in, and something that you believe is pursuant to your purpose. So yes, the fear of failure is something that is common amongst almost everybody, but you should find a way to work through that. What you have to do is to appreciate the fact that failure is inevitable, and that there is a 50% chance at least that you will fail when you try the first time, but you will always be able to try again. And most times when you fail once, you are able to eliminate the mitigating circumstances that cause that failure, such that the second or third time around, you're able to succeed. I can attest to that, because when I was younger, I was petrified of doing exams, and I've done perhaps hundreds of exams in my life. I was always afraid. I would get anxious, and I would just start, my palms would sweat, and I would have my pen and I would be wiping my hands all the time just to write. And I'm looking around me in the exam room and everybody is writing, and I'm like, how are they at page 2 already? And I am just halfway down the page. And that would make me even more anxious. The anxiety would just kick in, and I would start thinking all kinds of things. I'm going to fail. I could tell you one thing. I have never failed an exam before. You know why? Because I always prepared. So even though I was afraid of failing, I always made sure that I do enough preparation to prevent that eventuality, and as such it has never happened. Not because I am the smartest person in the room. I hate to be the smartest person in the room, but I always prepare. And there's a saying that goes like this: proper planning prevents poor performance. And there's another even more popular one that says, if you fail to plan, you should plan to fail. One of the most effective mitigating factors to prevent failure is to plan and to prepare. And if you need the help of others, to ask for that help. Because the more prepared you feel when you're going to embark on a journey, or when you're going to take on an ostensibly arduous task, the more prepared you feel is the more confident you will be. And the more prepared you are is the more the fear will recede into the background. So one of the ways that you can actually address the issue of fear is to prepare. And then that will boost your confidence. That will boost your confidence, and that will help you to now go into or step into your greatness without thinking too much about the fear. Hi, Shauna, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So, as I had said at the beginning, and Kasim, I hope that answered your question as it relates to the fear of failure. It is something that, as I said, most of us can attest to, but you have to find a way to work your way around that, so that it doesn't prevent you from pursuing your dreams, so that it doesn't prevent you from pursuing your purpose, from stepping into your greatness. But as I had said at the beginning, I want to speak a little bit about the psychology of fear. I'm speaking of fear from a cognitive perspective, because fear is largely understood as an element that emanates from the mind. It's how you perceive something. You think that it is something that is going to be either really scary, or something that is going to cause a lot of pain, or because it is unknown, it is not something with which you're familiar, you're afraid to do it. So fear to that extent emanates from a cognitive level. And according to the book, The Psychology of Fear and Stress by Jeffrey Allen, the psychology of fear takes a level of complexity that is attached to emotions. So when you think of fear, you can look at it from different perspectives. You can look at fear as it relates to your emotions, fear as it relates to your feelings. You're welcome, Kasim. I hope that was helpful. You can look at fear as fear within anxiety and fear as a phobia. So again, you can look at fear from different levels in terms of the emotions, and those are emotions, feelings, fear in anxiety, and fear as a phobia. So I'm going to briefly look at each of those. And the first one is fear as emotion. And as I said before, I'm consulting my notes. And it says here from the book I mentioned earlier that fear, when accompanied by bodily reactions, would signify strong emotional response to a situation, object, or event. So basically, what happens is that whenever you find something that is really daunting, you're faced with something that's really daunting or something that evokes that great level of fear within you, you tend to have an emotional response to it. It makes you feel maybe petrified or afraid or anxious, and that in many instances has prevented us from embarking on a journey, a particular journey that would have changed the course of our lives, maybe for the better. And sometimes it has helped you to basically remain safe because you were afraid of stepping into a dangerous situation. And that's why, as I said earlier, fear in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing in all instances. And I believe that you need at least a little bit of it in order for you to basically push yourself to the limit. I believe that a little bit of fear will push you over the edge and will actually allow you to look within you for that strength and for that ability to face the fear. And you know you're victorious when you're able to do whatever it is that you're going to do in spite of the fear. So the idea is not that you're going to eliminate the fear completely, but you're going to find a way to work through it such that you do the thing that you're afraid to do despite the fear. Most of the time, you will find that if you're able to do that and you actually get to do that thing that you were working so hard to accomplish, you normally end up saying to yourself, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would have been. And if any of you has ever had an experience like that, you can just indicate by saying yes or giving a thumbs up or just give me an indication, because I'm almost certain. Hi Tanisha, nice to see you. I'm almost certain that at least once in our lives, we have had that experience where you were afraid to do something, but you did it anyway, and then you thought to yourself that it wasn't as bad as you thought it would have been. If you can attest to that, just indicate by saying yes or give me a thumbs up. Hi, cuz, it's good to see you. Exactly. So it is something that you have to find a way to adjust your mind, to adjust your mindset to the fact that if you fear something, and because of that fear, you do not allow yourself to step into your greatness and to accomplish that thing, it's not going to put you any closer toward your goal. And sometimes the fear that you will feel having not done that is even worse, because sometimes when you don't do the thing that could have potentially changed your life, it allows you to remain in a mediocre situation, and that could have you experiencing a perpetuation of fear. So I believe that it is imperative that even though you are fearful, you have to find a way to work through that fear to accomplish your goals. So the second element is looking at fear as a feeling. And what Mr. Allen is saying as it relates to fear as a feeling, he says that fear could be simply manifested as a subjective feeling, as a sense of uneasiness or unconscious perception of sort. So there might be a situation again that you're unfamiliar with, and because you're not familiar with that situation, you feel uneasy. You feel a sense of unease, and you feel uncertain because it is not something you have done before. And because of that, you might get nervous. You might even practice, and before it was your turn to say go on stage, then you felt confident that you could do it. But once your eyes met that large audience, you start thinking, I'm going to mess up, I'm not going to do well. And sometimes you allow the fear to get the better of you, and then your performance wind up being mediocre. The way I deal with that is this. Like I said in one of my previous videos, I've done a lot of pageants, and most of those times I would be petrified before going on stage. But what I've always told myself was this: you only have one opportunity to shine. If you allow that fear to debilitate you in that few minutes that you have to go on stage and put your best performance forward, you don't get a do-over. You only have one chance to do that. And because you only have that one chance, you have to make it count. So what I used to do, I used to suck it up. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy for everybody, but I'm telling you what I did. Despite my fear, I was a contestant, and if I was contestant number 3 and they called me, I went on stage smiling like it was my stage, because I told myself that I only had that one chance. And fortunately for us, in real life, in most instances when we find ourselves being afraid, we usually have many chances to do over. So that should make it even better. It's not a case whereby you only have one shot at this, and if you fail, that's it for you. You can always try something else, and you can always look at it from a perspective whereby the failure, even if you fail, you learn from that experience, because in every failure, there's an opportunity to learn. What did I do wrong? What can I do differently? You can then use that failure to teach someone else later on who is trying to step into those same shoes what to avert, what to avoid, so as not to end up in the same situation. So you can look at failure as actually a tool for teaching someone else and for teaching yourself to avoid those mitigating circumstances later. So, like I said, fear is something that is inevitable, but you have to find a way to work through the walls, to work through the fear, to accomplish anything that you're working on, your dreams, your desires, your goals, anything you're working on, small or monumental, you have to find a way to work through the fear. The third element is fear in anxiety. Fear as a feeling could be the subjective basis of anxiety. And you know, anxiety is something that's internalized. And again, some people experience anxiety when they're dealing with stressful situations. And I mean, as you know, there are myriad of situations which can be construed as stressful. Many people I've heard saying that they have had anxiety or panic attack when it came to studying hard and preparing for exams. And that's something that is largely internalized. It's largely something that's in your mind, and it's really your perception of the outcome that causes you to be fearful. You think that you're going to fail your exams, or you're going to disappoint someone, or you're not going to do as well as you hope to do, or you will not be sufficiently prepared in time for your exams. And all those elements combined give you this level of anxiety that you start internalizing all of that, and you psych yourself out. So again, it's all about balance. It's all about trying to basically gaining control of your thoughts, of your perception of things, and focus on now. Focus on the preparation that you need to put in to ensure that you get the outcome that you're working on. And even to that extent, nothing is guaranteed. There are many people who put in 100%, whether it is for a project at work, or for an exam, or just for something for your personal life. You put in 100% and you still don't get the outcome that you were working toward. It is not guaranteed, but you should use every circumstances as a learning process as you go through life, because that's what life is. Life is a long journey, and you're learning as you go, as you traverse that journey. And fear is just one element that could operate to either make you or break you. The final element is fear as a phobia. Fear as a phobia is more external. You have these different elements that could just trigger that fear within you, that if you do that thing, if you jump off that ledge, you're going to break something, or if you go into the ocean, you're going to drown. So you might fear large bodies of water. I believe that's called aquaphobia or agophobia. You might fear insect. You might fear birds. People have a multiplicity of different things that they're afraid of, and it is manifested in the form of a phobia. Those are usually external things. But the fear again comes from within your mind and how you perceive that those things will hurt you. Most of the times, fear is linked back to pain or to your emotion. You're afraid of these things because you think that they're going to hurt you in some way. They're going to cause you pain. And because of that, you don't want to go near these things. You're afraid of insects because you think they're going to bite you and somehow hurt you. And sometimes, sometimes they say that women will see a lizard and in their mind it looks like an alligator. So that's the kind of things. Your mind is likely to compound the thing and make it look much worse than it is. And that is where fear comes from. So again, the four aspects that we dealt with tonight when looking at the psychology of fear is fear as it relates to your emotions, fear in terms of your feelings, fear as manifested in anxiety, and fear as a phobia. I will be speaking about this element of fear over the next 2 weeks, because I want to look at it as it relates to um, fear of the unknown. How do you deal with that? And then I'm going to talk about fear as it being an fear in the sense of it being the enemy that comes from within you, and how you can basically work around that to accomplish your goals. And then finally, I'm going to give some suggestion as to how you can overcome the fearful factors that will help you to not lose sight of your goals. Before I end, hi Cleon, it's good to see you. Before I end, I'm going to actually sort of allude to something that's very current right now. And nowadays I try to stay away from politics. But if you notice, even what's going on in America right now, a lot of people are fearful because of all the things that are happening, and they're happening really fast. And people are afraid of what could happen to their families, or to their friends, to their loved ones, and to the country at large. So everybody is on edge. But what you have to understand is that all of this is happening within a context. Politicians, the media, anyone who has a large platform tend to use the notion or the power of suggestion to instigate fear into people. When we had the Great Depression in 1929 to 1930, to a large extent, the fear of the power of suggestion was used to instill fear in people, by the news every single day repeating that we're not going to recover, things are so bad, or economic situation is just so bad, nobody's going to recover, you're going to lose all your money. People became very fearful. Everybody started to bombard the financial institution trying to withdraw their money, which we know is not possible if everyone wants to take it out at the same time, so everything is going to come crashing down. But because of the power of suggestion that was used, people became fearful. So there are other extraneous variables that can also be used to instill fear into people. So you have to be cognizant of these things and not get lost or caught up within it. At the end of the day, for as long as you're here, you have your life to live. And you should not allow something like fear, which is inevitable, which is going to happen no matter what, to prevent you from pursuing your dreams. I can always make suggestion about not allowing fear to debilitate you, but at the end of the day, the how of it will be different for all of us. But the bottom line is that you have to find a way to work through that fear, so that you do the thing that you're afraid of in spite of. You see, if your aim is to try to remove the fear completely before you do the thing that you're afraid of, that is not the correct formula, because the truth is that you cannot really you can never completely get rid of fear. You can perhaps minimize it, and that's a good thing, because if you can diminish it to a level that is, for want of a better word, comfortable for you, then that might allow you to pursue your goal or to push through the fear. But you will never be able to eliminate it. So don't let that be your goal. Your goal should be the outcome that you're working toward. And since that is your goal, how are you going to reach beyond the fear, push through the fear, push through that wall that is operating as a barrier to block you to pursue your goal? Someone said that fear is inverted faith. And remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Essentially, what faith is, in terms of an application to our lives, is that, hi Kamal, it's good to see you, is that you believe you can accomplish a thing despite the fact that you haven't seen it. So faith is largely propelled by what you believe. So even though you haven't seen the thing as yet, and it might seem bigger than you, because of your perfect faith that you have, you believe you can accomplish it. Fear is the opposite of that, and that's why they say it is inverted faith. What they're saying is that fear is something that, because you can't see it, you don't believe it. You're afraid because it's unknown to you. So you don't believe that you're going to be able to accomplish the particular thing that you're working toward. Or you don't believe that you're going to be able to win the race that you have been practicing so hard for, because you cannot see it. You cannot see it for yourself. And one of the other thing is that you have to be mindful of how you allow fear to debilitate you, Because when you allow yourself to be controlled by fear, it doesn't only affect you, but it affects the people around you. And there are people who are watching you and relying on you, to people who are silently looking up to you as a mentor. And even though I'm not saying you're obligated to these people, but some of you have children, some of you have younger siblings, some of you have even parents, friends, loved ones who are looking up to you. And as such, you have to be mindful of that and how you allow fear to control your life. So it is not a case whereby you should say you have to see it and then you will believe it, because most things that you're working on, you do not see it, you do not see the outcome as yet, you haven't gotten it as yet, but you believe that you can accomplish it if you juxtapose the right variables, and as such, you're going to find a way, despite your fear, to pursue those things. We should not be crippled by fear, but face our fears bravely. Exactly, Miss Powell. And that's what I have been saying. We should not allow the fear to cripple us. We know that it's there. We know we're going to face it. And even after we find a way to avert the fear or to push through the fear today, tomorrow we might be faced with another situation that's also going to catapult us into fear again. But we deal with the situations as they come. And as Miss Powell said, you have to find a way not to allow the fear to cripple you, but to face it bravely and weather the storm. And sometimes we do that and we don't even realize. Many of us have done things that we were afraid to do, but we did it anyway. And I always like to allude to children, because if you notice, a lot of children, they're not as fearful as we are, Children will do some things that parents will look at those things as being borderline just dangerous, and other people looking on might think that the parents are irresponsible if they allow their children to do these things, and the children will just go on the ledge and jump off. And as they grow older, they become afraid. As adults, we are afraid to do things that children are not afraid to do. Children have the most imaginative minds, and they will do things that a lot of us, when we grow up, we find difficult or we're afraid to do, because their minds perceive things differently. And some people say they don't know their danger, and sometimes that is true. But if we can go back to that childlike mindset, then we would be able to do a lot of things that we are now afraid to do. And in terms of, for information purposes, a baby is only born with two fears. That is the fear of a loud sound and the fear of falling. Now, allow that to go through your mind for a little bit. Allow that to resonate with you for a little bit. Only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of a loud sound. Now that you have thought about that for a little bit, think about the multiplicity of fears that exist today, and the fact that all of those were learned. All of those are things that we have acquired as we grow older. We weren't born with them. And I believe that anything that you learn, you can unlearn it to the extent that you are pursuing your goals, and you're not going to allow it to prevent you from pursuing those goals. I could allude to just about 100 things off the top of my head that I was afraid of, but I was able to push through in spite of that fear. And I am saying to you, even though you're afraid, do it afraid. Lisa Nichols says, do it afraid. And I agree with her completely. You're afraid, but do it anyway. Because even if you do not do it, the fear is still going to be with you. And not only is there going to be fear, but that's going to be compounded fear. Because then it's going to be coupled with the what if. What if I had done it and it wasn't so bad after all? And then you look to your side, you look to your left or to your right, and someone else ran away with the idea that you were cooking up, but you were too afraid to take it. You were afraid to were too afraid to implement it, or you were too afraid to take a leap of faith. And then you look to your left, and someone else is doing the very thing that you now have no ownership for, because you were too afraid to start. I am saying, do it afraid. Start. I have started a lot of journeys not knowing how it was going to end. Remember I told you when I was going to Barbados to study law? My mom and I put together and we bought a one-way ticket. And I went to Barbados, one of the most expensive islands in the Caribbean. Tuition was to be paid, living expenses. I had to eat or else I would have died, but I went. I was afraid because I had heard a lot of things about Barbados and I was scared. It was a place that it was unknown to me. I was stepping into the unknown. I was stepping into a pressure point because I was going to study law. This was going to be a lot of work, no textbooks, no money, no nothing. I was afraid. I was petrified. But my faith superseded that fear. And because of that, I was able to go. And the rest, as they say, is history. If I was to tell you how that story played out, you would just think that it was nothing but amazing. I had so many angels that came to my rescue in many shapes, sizes, and forms. And that is because of faith. The faith was the mitigating circumstance that allowed me to overcome the fear. Hi, Mr. Williams. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm saying to you, do not try to erase the fear, because that is not something that you can do. If you can diminish it, if you can minimize it, that would be good. But don't focus on that either. Focus on what you can do to work through the fear to achieve your ultimate potential. I am saying to you that you have the power within you to do anything that you want to do. Nothing is too big. Because if you believe the words that I believe, the word of God, that with God all things are possible, bar none, not some things, not these things over here, all things are possible, then why are you going to allow fear to debilitate you? Fear is like almost like insanity. It's like a disease of the mind, because it thwarts your perception in such a way that it prevents you from doing the things that you know that you are good at. Why? Why do we do that? And I say we because I have done that before. I am here at this age doing what I'm doing now. It is something I've always loved. It is something I've always wanted to do. But I was not willing to do it afraid. And I'm saying to you, don't be me. I'm doing it now because I was forced to. I was forced by that internal power that said, Shauna-Kaye, you only have one life and you should make it count. And I'm doing it. It is what is fulfilling to me. And we all have our own scripts. We all have our own ideas, our own notions as to what is fulfilling. And I am saying to you, do not allow that element of fear to that 4-letter word. Only 4 letters, but it's so big and so scary. Do not allow that to prevent you from walking into your greatness. Tanisha said, walk by faith and not by sight. That's what I live by, my favorite scripture. The Lord as guide my every step through lots of fearful times. Thank you so much, Tanisha. That's absolutely true. It's not because she's not afraid why she was able to push through every single time, but she walks by faith and not by sight. She believes that even though she cannot see it, she can achieve it. And that is what she has used as her light, as her guiding step. And I'm saying to you, you can do it too. We all can accomplish anything that we desire. I'm not saying go out there and be unrealistic. You have to know your resources. You have to know your potential. You have to become attuned to your intuition. If you're not attuned to your purpose, and if you're not attuned to the things that are speaking to you, then you're going to have unrealistic desires which are only going to be met with failure. So that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying sometimes you just need a little bit of solitude, a little bit of quietude. Get quiet for a minute and listen to your inner voice, the one that says to you, you can do it. And I know you're afraid, but you can do it in spite of your fear. And that's what I want to share with you tonight, guys. In spite of the fact that you're afraid, do it anyway. At least try. Because I can guarantee that if you try, after you have tried, your perspective is going to change. You might not even be willing to do it again, but your perspective will change. And I can guarantee that the fear will not be as intense as it was at the onset. Just give it a shot, one time. I'm not even saying do it 10 times, just one time. It is guaranteed that your perception is going to change. It is guaranteed that you're going to see it from a different perspective. Just give it a shot. You see, we only have one life to live. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. And some people might be saying right now, oh, people always say that. We always say that because it is true. You'll be here one moment and the next moment you're not. And I'm not coming with a doomsday kind of speech or anything like that. It's just reality. So if you're here now, it is because you have not done all that you ought to do. And you know what? There is somebody out there who is being delayed in their progress because you are not doing what you're supposed to do. Yes. And I know that may sound a little bit abstract and weird, but it's true. Because it's all a big puzzle and we all have a role to play to fit it all together. There is an individual, there's a group of people somewhere, they might not be in the same place, but there is somebody somewhere who is waiting on you to make your impact so that they can move and step into their greatness. You don't know that, and they don't know that. But if you don't do it, someone else is going to be delayed because it's a process. We're all interconnected and we're all interrelated. And so you have to channel your greatness, channel your purpose into accomplishing that which your heart desires. I believe that if a desire was placed there, and I'm not talking about a wish or a fleeting dream, I'm talking about a real, genuine, authentic desire. If that desire was placed in your heart, it is for a reason. And you now owe it to yourself to explore and try to accomplish that desire. And if you're able to distinguish between a real, genuine, planted seed of a desire and just a fleeting wish because of something material, then you know what I'm talking about. That is something that you can align with your purpose. And you know this by looking at, amongst other things, what are the things that you value? What are the things that you prefer? What are the things that just you're interested in? And what are the things that you could spend hours doing without even realizing the passing of time, which is so important? That's how you know what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And of course, we know that life happens, you have to pay the bills, you have to live, you have to feed the children, of course. So sometimes necessity dictates that you have to do things a little differently. But God has blessed us with this ability to do different things, to do a multiplicity of things at the same time. If I was to tell you all the things I am doing right now, you would be so surprised. But you know what? I'm doing it not on my own, but because I'm allowing God to guide me into my purpose. I'm allowing God to use me. Because if I was to do it by myself, I wouldn't be able to. That would have been impossible. But that's my belief, and I'm not proselytizing to you. I'm not imposing my God on you. But you have to have something, the universe, something that you believe in. Allow that thing, that force that propels you, that force that pushes you every single day, allow that thing to remind you that despite your fear, you can accomplish that which you want to accomplish. You can accomplish that dream life for your children. You can accomplish that dream life to give your parents a home. Whatever it is that your heart desire, you can accomplish it because you have something. You have greatness within you. You have power within you. And you have the ability to attain massive success as you define it. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. If you have any questions or suggestions or ideas, anything that you would like me to speak about, you feel free to share it in the comment box below. Hi, Trishelle. It's nice to see you. Feel free to share it in the comment box below. I am more than happy to share anything that has impacted my life and anything that has helped me to overcome and to accomplish my goals. I'm willing to share that because I believe we all have the ability to do amazing things. Thank you so much, Trishelle. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. We have the ability to do so much more, and we have to be willing to be patient. I started out by talking about the psychology of fear, but sometimes there's so many things that come to me in the moment and I just have to share it because I might forget, and it's important that the message is brought across. And you just have to adjust your mind to the fact that it's not necessarily going to be easy, but easy is not what does it. One thing I've always said, I'm going to leave this with you before I go, is this. You need the storm. You need the storm. Why? Because the storm tells you that afterwards there comes a calm. Most times when you have things just smooth sailing all the time, everything it seems perfect, that's when you should be worried, because that's when you have these sudden outbreaks. And those things is unannounced. It hits you when you're down, when you least expect. So when you have tough times, when you have difficult situations, welcome it. See how you can learn from it. And what I say is, don't tell people that, oh, if you know what I've been through. You know, the reason why you're able to tell the story in that way, in terms of what you have been through, is because you have a mentality of being a victim and of life doing this and that to you. Life hasn't been nice to me. Life hasn't been kind to me. But when you have a storm, the next time you're faced with a difficult situation, ask yourself this question: do I want to go through it, or do I want to grow through it? GROW. I can guarantee that if you decide to grow through your storm, you're going to be better able to deal with it. And it's not going to take the life out of you after the storm has passed. After the storm has passed, you're going to be able to pick up the pieces. And thank you so much, Renee. I hope I answered your question. I was looking at the element of fear. I'm going to delve deeper into the enemy within and how you can basically counter this to work on your dreams. I will do that later this week. But today I was speaking about the psychology of fear, if you weren't here from the beginning, and I hope you find utility in this when you go back and look at the video from the beginning. But what I'm saying is that you have to find a way to grow through the storm. Once you adapt that mindset that you're going to grow through it, you will realize that the experience will treat you very differently. Because each time you're hit with that challenging situation, you're going to be assessing it. You're going to be thinking of it in terms of how you're going to use that as a learning process, as an opportunity as you move forward. You have a life and you should make the most of it, because many of our friends weren't so lucky. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining. I hope to see you later this week when I speak further about fear. If there's anything else that you think I've left out that you would like me to talk about, just leave a message or a comment and I'll be more than happy to do so. For more insights, visit my website. The link is posted here, www.shauna-kaye.com. Every single day I post quotes from entrepreneurs, speakers. I have my own quotes as well. Sometimes I write articles. I have a myriad of things on the website, just helpful tools that can remind you that you're not the only one, that we all have challenges, but we are going to focus and we're going to remain determined because we have the ability to do what anyone else has done. So thanks again for joining me, guys. I really appreciate your support and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.